Hey guys, I'm back with the advanced keying breakdown, second part, which is going to be Despill. We just got done talking about the alpha, and let's go into some more detail on what we're going to be talking about in the Despill process. I'm going to be going over types of despills, different nodes that you can use while you're despilling, key steps like adding luminance back into your despill, combining core and edge despills, and hiding despill in a channel so you can use it later. I'm gonna go over some concepts and problems later on, but let's get right into it. Let's see. So, first question is what is despill and why is it needed? And so despill, it removes any green or blue spill on the subject and replaces it with a color that is more neutral or suitable for the new environment. Green spill is a dead giveaway of a green screen key. So you have some of this great stuff. I'm sure you guys have seen this before from Hollywood Camera Works. It's a great example of tons of green spill. It's all over her jacket and her face, inside of her face, and obviously when we key this, if this stuff is still there, you're going to tell that it's came from a green screen plate. Here's another example. So the spill on this girl's forehead is now gone after despilling, along with any green that's in the hair. So despilling can be from stuff bouncing on the character or the subject. It can also be when the green blends with the edge pixels, which will essentially make an edge pixel, 50% green or however percentage green, and you'll need to get rid of that. So the alpha will keep that edge transparency, but the pixels will still be mixed with the green, so essentially you have to change the color of the pixel so that you don't see the green anymore. So here's a good example of just a despill. It's out of her jacket now, you're still keeping around the same luminance. It's off of her face. Here's another example. So this would be a pretty good despill. Her jacket didn't change color too much, and all the green is removed, and you're left with a decent image. Let's take a look at another one. So despill can also mean like reflections of the subject on the subject. So this desk is reflecting this green screen, which is causing it to look green. Obviously the desk in real life is not green, it's black. So we can do something like this and make everything a nice neutral color. That makes a little bit more sense, so that when we apply our alpha to the image, it all makes sense. Here's another example from online, and all the water is reflecting the green screen background. And so when you key this, you'll have to make sure everything is white, and when you despill it, you'll also have to make sure that everything is a nice neutral color, or a color that makes sense according to the shot. So if there was like brown mountains back here, then maybe you would make this color a little more brown to match the reflected background that you're going to put in there. There are some general rules that I've come to understand with despilling, and one of which is despill should be separated from the alpha process. And why is it important to separate the alpha step from the despilling step? Well, many keyers will do the despill operation within the keyer, and that can be really difficult to adjust the despill separate from the alpha. What may be needed for a good despill could drastically change your alpha channel, so what you want to do is keep them completely separate so that you can adjust both accordingly. It can also be very difficult to combine keys, because what might be good for an alpha, combining one key with another, might throw off your despill, where you can see an edge of where you've combined the keys, because the two despills from whatever keyer you're using is completely different. So it's much more flexible to do your despill separately and apply your finished alpha at the end. So let me give you a couple examples. So say I got this guy and I'm despilling him, or rather I'm just making an alpha. Well, I have an IBK over here, which might be really good for the alpha, but maybe there's something else I'm doing and this Primat is giving me a better edge for something else. Now, one thing to note is that it's pretty difficult to do Despill with a Primat. It generally doesn't work that well. I think, for example, you have to switch this thing to spill and start sampling colors, but it gets really hairy. So I wouldn't really recommend it. Not only that, but when you combine the Despills, so I used the Primat for, say, just his hair, you'll see, because I'm combining both RGB and alpha together, I'll take the Despill from one and the other, and you'll see it looks really funky, and it's kind of hard to control if I'm trying to combine the keys. And maybe it will work really well for my alpha, but as I go back to RGB, I'm just throwing two separate Despills together. It's not really working. Here's another example with this girl. So maybe I have two keys, one with a key light and one with an IBK, and maybe I want to do something different for her body because I'm trying to keep some colors or something. You can see when I combine the two keys, even though they both look okay on their own, they're different, and you'll see some kind of green creeping back in because one of the keys has Despill differently than the other key. So the way I recommend working, going back to this guy in his office chair, is you have your two alphas here, and say we combine them where his head is. That's good. So now we're going to use just the alpha channel of this, and we're going to do our Despill off to the side. And say we have a good Despill now, we're going to copy our alpha channel into that Despill and then pre-mult it and put it over our image. So you can see without the Despill it looks like this, but now we have the option of completely controlling Despill separate from our key. So we could pump up some stuff and bring back some values. Let's see, we can Despill it farther, but everything we're doing is completely separate from the key, which we don't have to worry about the alpha anymore, or us affecting the alpha. That'll change the Despill once we have it in a good spot. Everything is kind of separate and more flexible to take care of. So we should be aware that the despilling process has two goals. The first is to remove the spill from the subject, and the second is to blend the subject's edges with the background color. Now, why do we need a core and an edge despill separate? Why can't we just use one? Well, your core tends to be more tame, and it'll keep most of the original colors and neutralize any spill. Your edge despill is a little more drastic, and it's going to change a lot more to match either the background color or a color that's very similar to your subject's edges. That way it blends nice and smoothly. The edge despill will also be used to reveal some of the background colors, which will look like holes in your key if you leave them in your core of your subject. So let's move on to this example. We have this lady on a green screen, and so if we do our edge despill, we are removing all the green and just looking at our edges, such as the hair and her skin and shirt. Now, you see that we've removed all the green, and it's blending into a little bit of a darker gray. We could make this kind of a skin tone or a brown color to match your hair, but I think this works in this scenario. So you'll also notice that her shirt color has now completely changed because we've pushed the despill a little bit too hard, and it's turning this yellow color into a kind of a brown-orange color. So what we need to do is now do a core despill that'll help keep that color. So here's the original image again, and this is our core despill, and you'll see that it's removed some green on the yellow shirt, but it's kept the original color mostly. It's also keeping a lot of the luminance, whereas in the edge despill we were kind of going a little bit darker. So using a core key and blurring it a little bit, we can combine those with a key mix. So we went from our edge despill to a combined core and edge despill in the area that we needed. But you'll see we still maintain the nice edges of the core. going back to the core, we can see that there was still some green left in the edge, and that was because we weren't pushing it as hard, so we can keep the yellow color. Now we have the best of both worlds, where we're combining the edge and the core. From there, we combine our alpha, which was this image here, and we do a little bit of background blending, which I'll talk about at a later time. But then we pre-mult it and put it over our background. So without that core key mixed in, we would have this image here, which doesn't stay true to the original colors of her shirt or the original plate. So that is it in a nutshell. It's how you combine the core despill and the edge despill, and those are the things that you want to think about while you do your despill. Is, am I keeping enough of the original colors, and how are my edges blending? So I'm going to add a video link to another tutorial that kind of goes over this edge blending process, where you're taking the background and you're using the this difference mat from the despill of the edge, and you're kind of combining those to get this kind of effect. I'll talk about it in a later video, but I think we're going to move forward, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit.